Right, here we are at the start of the UFO hike in Rendlesham Forest. We're going to be going to all the different places along the story, starting off at the East Gate. That's going to be our first stop today. The whole incident happened really between two airfields, so only about a mile apart, but it focused really on Woodbridge.
The Rendlesham Forest incident really is considered to be one of the world's most important UFO incidents. It is considered to be the British Roswell. And if you believe some sources, the US Air Force and British government might have had multiple different evidence to prove what happened, including radar telemetry, multiple eyewitnesses, and even a tape recording of one of the incidents. Lights in the sky had been seen for weeks beforehand, but there are two nights that are really of interest. It was from here at the East Gate on the 26th of December 1980 that the unusual lights were seen for the first time. A light was seen hovering in the sky and then descending into the tree line.
Now you can see a white bubble of light over the top of the forest, and then I seen some multiple color lights like inside the forest. And I said, Bud, did you hear it crash? He goes, no, it didn't crash. He says it landed. Impossible. Okay, impossible.
They saw two lights that they thought was unusual heading down into the forest, descending down into the woods. Initially, they thought they were seeing an aircraft in distress, so they set off the aircraft in distress protocols, which basically means they had to contact local authorities, local police, and set up a search and rescue mission, which is what they did.
They lost contact with a bogey, a unidentified aircraft, non-civilian, because it didn't have a transponder, over Woodbridge Base 15 minutes ago. The status forces agreement says that we had to have an emergency situation before we could deploy off base. Well, immediately when the radar said they lost contact, we had an emergency situation, and then with my observation, we were pretty sure it was an aircraft crash.
So according to eyewitness Jim Peniston, radar had tracked and lost an object just over Rendlesham only 15 minutes before. This gave them the authorization to go out into the woods to see what had crashed.
This is now one of the first debunkers' beliefs, or one of the theories that debunk this. So in that direction, the same direction as the lights, about 7 miles away, is the Orford Lighthouse. Now derelict, now not in use. So could that have been what they saw?
No, it's a light in the right direction. I suppose that counts for something, but it wouldn't be moving.
Exactly. Yeah, lighthouses don't tend to move a great deal, and they tend to flash as well, which these sellers saw as solid object.
What are you chasing? There's nothing to chase. And he goes, over there. And I'm looking, well, that's the opposite direction. I'll look over there. And so I look over there. What? He said, there. I was, where? There, you know? So I looked down his arm. And here's what I seen, because we went out in 2010 and we took a picture from exactly the same spot. And lucky we did, because they tore down the lighthouse. That light is that's the light from the lighthouse. It could have been a car, you know what I mean? But there's a shield plating on the inside so it doesn't show inside on the land. But we were far enough advanced that the shielding would show that. Now they took it down, but obviously that's not what I see. I said, no, that's the lighthouse.
I don't see that they police at that gate that would see the lighthouse, I'd have thought, every night. Suddenly, one night, set off the lost aircraft alert
Also,
protocols.
the flashes on a lighthouse are set to flash out to sea as well. They obviously, it's the off flash when it swings round in land, because they normally rotate, don't they?
Yeah. And I was here roughly 20 years ago when the lighthouse was actually still active, and I was here in an evening. You couldn't see the lighthouse. So for me, there's other possibilities, but Orford Lighthouse,
It's just stretching, isn't it, for some kind of light source in that direction? You know.
Hey, always look for the simple explanation. We always say that. Always look for the simple
it is a
explanation
simple
first.
explanation, but I just don't think it holds weight really with them seeing moving lights as opposed to a stationary light.
Exactly. Not enough that they actually thought it was a crashed aircraft anyway. So 3 men were sent from the base at Woodridge behind us to begin the search. As they got to this point on the edge of the forest, for some reason the radio communication started to break down. So 1 man stayed there while the other 2 men went into the woods towards the glow.
Experiencing radio difficulty. I'll tell you right now, that's impossible. There's all kinds of impossible things going on, by the way. We have a radio relay system. We had IBRs, interbase radios, Motorola's, and we had repeating systems all over the twin bases. So there's no way to have a dead spot. It's impossible, except at that moment.
Do you think it's genuine that the radio's starting to break down? I don't understand why that would happen in such a short distance. Do you think the trees?
No, it should have been just as stable when they're investigating as it was before, but obviously it wasn't. But there have been obviously other occurrences of radio signals not being jammed, not working when there's a presence of an unidentified flying object in other cases. So it's quite likely that perhaps somehow
Some
they
sort of
interfere
electromagnetic interference, or
some
something
kind
else.
of electromagnetic, interfering with the radio waves.
At that point in time, I'd probably been at 23 or 24 crashes, so it's just a lot. But the thing that didn't make sense, even though I did the SRO for aircraft crash, is it didn't have the right color. Like with titanium burning, fuel, things like that nature, just didn't have that coloring.
So it was Penniston and Burroughs that actually approached the object together. And they approached it with the assumption that this was a crashed aircraft. But were already a little confused about what they were seeing, because, as Jim just said, the colouring was all wrong.
So the whole woodland is incredibly dense, but lots of little patches of open areas. It's a managed woodland, so trees are planted and felled for wood. So it would have actually been quite different back in 1980. The woodland in the area actually of the UFO sighting, where they actually saw the object, would have been actually a little bit more mature back then than it is now. Another theory, that it was the SAS. This is my favourite theory. The British Army's got a long and proud history of messing with the Americans. So basically the story goes that an SAS group attempted to get into Woodbridge, that was at the time a nuclear camp. They had nuclear weapons stored on site. So they were testing the security.
Yep.
They tried to parachute in, but they were caught. These 4 men roundly had the crap kicked out of them, and they were then designated as illegal aliens as they were on an American camp. Mm-hmm. The SAS took this as an insult, weirdly. So the story goes that the whole Rendlesham forest incident was actually just a hoax perpetrated by the British SAS to make the Americans look stupid. And, well, if so, it worked.
Well, yeah.
What do you think about that theory, though, as an idea, that this could have just been flares or whatever else set off by the SAS running around the woods just trying to freak the Americans out? And if you actually listen to the voice recordings of the incident, the radio tape, actually these men were panicked.
Military or civilian jet, helicopter or flares or anything they were aware of, although initially they did go out to because they thought it might be a plane in trouble perhaps.
They made that initial assumption, definitely, that it was a plane. And that's the thing that makes me think. They set off that, because obviously there was rules in this protocol for if a plane goes down, what they're supposed to do, because technically it's American land, technically. Yes. At the time. They had control of the base, so they had agreements. This is why the local police were informed and were in the area. The local police came to the site the next day, and they said the indentations that were seen by the soldiers the next day was probably just animals, and that the lights were probably just the lighthouse. So local police were involved and didn't think that this was anything.
Yeah, but that's local police for you. They just want to shut the case down on their end because they've got nothing to really go off, and they've got no way of actually conclusively saying what it was.
Yeah.
So it's just how quickly can we close this off and file the paperwork.
Probably next door, yeah.
I imagine. I imagine that happens a lot with a lot of these UFO cases where police aren't particularly interested because they can't prove any human involvement.
Yeah. Similarly to that, the MOD had a case file on this incident, and they're also not interested. And they've basically said the same thing they always say about UFOs. There was no threat to national security, so they're not interested. So that's the normal British response to anything sort of weird, to be honest, is there wasn't a threat.
Yeah.
So we're not interested.
Well, it's a good get out of jail free card, isn't it? Yeah, we're not looking at that anymore. No threat. Meanwhile, there's a load of secret files on that case, probably somewhere.
Yeah, most definitely.
Cool. Is it? Yes.
The two US Air Force search party came into the clearing where they saw the glowing lights. It was at this point they say they saw an object, a UFO, a flying saucer, sat on a tripod of 3 legs. They said every time they tried to approach the vehicle, it would lift off and levitate away. And here is the exact place where that happened.
Move it through the blue light and that, the white light. I felt physical things going on. Cabanzak's 50 yards away from me to the end control point. Burroughs is over here 20 feet to the right, rear. And as I was going in, I could feel static. Lots of static on my hands, my clothes, my skin, the hair, which at first I thought was adrenaline, but it maintained.
The local council does advertise this walk and this event. It's really good for tourism. And supposedly this mock-up is of roughly the right size. Around 3 metres long, a couple of metres wide and a couple of metres tall.
Watch stopped, I would say, from electrical activity. But that's why the sphere of influence had such an effect. Real-time notes. WTF going on again. I mean, here I was at Orford Air Force Base. They had all the prototypes, all the R&D stuff at SAC headquarters. I seen stuff that's 50 years in the future. Okay. This aircraft is unknown. Okay, Jim, let's start checking this out. Okay, propulsion. Don't have any out, it doesn't have no exhaust. Okay. Intakes. No intakes. Flaps, no flaps. No ailerons. How in the is this thing flying? How could it? It can't. Not that I know of.
He then stated he was able to get close enough to touch the vehicle. He pushed it, it wouldn't move. He saw these hieroglyphs and was fascinated by them. He decided, in his wisdom, to touch one.
But those glyphs fascinated me, along with 6,000 other things that were going on. But they did fascinate me. And when I got to them, I just thought it was pretty, unusual. I was going over them, like that. And as I went through the bottom ones, the one on top was fascinating. The one with the circle in the triangle. So what does Jimmy Boy do? This is brilliant. I touch that one. As soon as I touch it, there's brilliant white light. And for the people who don't know what flash bulbs are, it's like a constant flash bulb, okay? It's that kind of white light. I couldn't see it. I mean, I couldn't see any shadows, nothing. I got my hand on this thing, and I'm seeing, all of a sudden, besides all this light, white, bluish light, I'm seeing ones and zeros, and holy shit. I said, what is the hell is going on here? I mean, I'm petrified. So I get back about 10, 15 feet. I start digging a hole in the ground, trying to eat dirt. Swear to God, I thought it was going to explode. Then the craft lifts up about 3 to 4 feet off the ground. And get this now, remember, trees are only 3, 4, 5 feet apart. Travels back through, and remember I paced it off, it was 9 feet, back through the trees. stops about 20 feet away, and it rises up to the canopy of the forest, takes a slight right, gone.
So the next morning, they came and searched the area. They found broken trees, indentations in the ground, and they did radiation tests. The radiation tests suggested that there was 10 times the normal background radiation in the area, and there was a second spike a little while in that direction.
Upon returning to the base, Burroughs and Penniston are told that they had misidentified some sort of natural phenomenon. They had all of the photographs that Penniston had taken removed and confiscated. They were told to basically not worry about what they'd seen. They were told there was nothing to see here.
So Deputy Base Commander Holt came out the next morning with a few other Air Force crew from the base, and they brought radiation detectors. Now, this is the part of the story that is odd, because at the point where they found the indentations and the burn marks and the broken trees, they were detected a spike in radiation. Normal background radiation is 0.03 mil road engines. I'll put that on the thing. They detected at the site a spike of 0.07 on their instruments. There was also a second spike nearby. But the radiation also wasn't the only physical evidence on the night. We do have tape recordings of the conversations with the crew, and they do sound terrified. So, I mean, it's not just eyewitness statement here. And we always have to remember, though, as well, the eyewitness statement should be at least reliable. These are trained observers.
Yes, trained observers. They know military craft inside out. And they're going to be taught to be able to identify certain things in the skies in order to protect the national interest or for national security purposes.
The base commander, Conrad, the next day did interview at least two of the witnesses, and he said, he was quoted as saying, "These boys saw something and I don't know what it was." He later seemed to say that he didn't believe it was aliens or UFOs or anything, and did suggest that he suspected it was probably some sort of hoax. But anyway, this sighting wasn't actually the last of the sightings. There were lights seen again the next night.
Yes.
And this is where we're getting into the area now of the woodland, where apparently 3 more lights were seen. One of the lights, at least, was described as hovering for 2 or 3 hours and then shining a yellow light towards the ground. And this was all seen by the Deputy Base Commander.
You just saw a light where? Where? Right in this position here, straight ahead, in between the tree. There it is again. Watch, straight ahead off my flash right there, sir. There it is. Hey, I see it too. What is it? We don't know, sir. So, can I get some? Yeah, it's a strange, small red light. Looks to be out maybe a quarter to half mile, maybe further out. I'm going to switch off. The light is gone now. It was approximately 120 degrees from the site. Is it back again? Yes, sir. This night, the first night bird we've seen, we're about 150 or 200 yards from the site. Everything else is just deathly calm. There is no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead. It's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it too. Weird. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. Yellow. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off. There is no doubt about it. This is weird. To the left. Yeah, definitely moving left. Two lights. One light to the front, one light to the left. Keep flashing. Let's approach to the edge of the woods up there. Can you want to do without lights? Let's do it carefully. Come on. Okay, we're looking at the thing. We're probably about 200 to 300 yards away. It looks like an eye winking at you. It's still moving from side to side. And when you put the star scope on it, it sort of has a hollow center, a dark center. It's like the pupil of an eye looking at you and winking. And the flash is so bright to the star scope that it almost burns your eye. We passed the farmer's house and across in the next field. Now we have multiple sightings of up to 5 lights with a similar shape and all, but they seem to be steady now rather than a pulsating or glow with a red flash. We just crossed the creek, and we're getting what kind of readings now? Getting 3 good clicks on the meter, and we're seeing strange strange lights in the sky. 0315, now we've got an object about 10 degrees directly south, 10 degrees off the horizon. And the ones to the north are moving, one's moving away from us. It's moving out fast.
This one on the right heading away too.
Yeah, they're both heading north. Hey, here he comes from the south. He's coming toward us now. Now we're observing what appears to be a beam coming down to the ground. This is unreal.
So there it is. There's everything that happened. But it's not the end of the story. Next, we're going to have a live debate about the entire incident, what we believe really happened, and what the rest of the story has to tell us. What did Penniston, Holt, Burroughs have to say after the event? What did they really believe happened, and what are their theories about what it all means? To see the live show, July 21st at 9 PM, please go to my channel and subscribe. But also go to our Facebook group and join us on the Mystery Machine, where we do live shows every Wednesday night. Come join us live, hear what we have to say, but also have the opportunity to get your voice heard.
For a bit of fun, we've dropped an Easter egg into the video. So if you could spot it, please be first, make a comment, tell me exactly when it happens in the video, and we'll give you a shout out on the live show Wednesday 9 PM as our Mystery Machine live show.